third grade, once your background is dry, we can go ahead and we can start assembling our 3D cityscape with our background, middle ground, and foreground. The first thing that we want to do is we need to make our background a little bit taller, just so that it's up and above the buildings that we had. The painting paper that we were using was only 14 inches, so we needed it just a little bit taller. So you'll flip your background over, and you'll go ahead and you'll get the 5-inch addition sheet. And what you'll do is you'll grab the roll of tape, and we're just going to get a very small piece of tape, and we're going to line up our edges, and then we're going to place a piece of tape on the edge so that it's not sticking over the left. We'll grab a second small piece of tape. We'll do the same thing on the right hand side. If you're having trouble ripping the tape, you can always go ahead and use a scissors. And we're just going to go all the way across now. So there's no holes, so now it's just one solid piece again. Once we have our background, we can go ahead and grab our middle ground. In order to put our middle ground on to our background, we have the flaps that were left white, and we can go ahead and flip it over, and we can fold both flaps on both sides so that we don't see them anymore. So you'll put it upside down, and you'll take your background and you'll also flip it upside down. You'll put it inside, and we want to line up the bottom of our background with the bottom of our foreground, and we're going to go ahead and fold the flap over. Just like we did with the background, we're going to start with 2 small pieces of tape. We're going to make sure the bottom is lined up, and we'll run that small piece of tape on the bottom so that it's not hanging over. And we'll do another little piece up on the top. Once the top and bottom are taped, we can go ahead and run a long piece of tape from the bottom to the top. Now here's where it gets a little tricky. We don't want it to be flat, because if it's flat and we fold it and then we pick it up, it's just going to be flat again. So we actually need it to be bent out a little bit. So for this next part, you need to push the flap against the background. Flat, we need to pick it up. You're actually going to hold it right there. So before you do that, grab your piece of tape. You can pick it up, and again, you want to put the edge of your background in to the fold of your foreground, and that piece of tape will be very helpful in holding it for you. And already you can tell that it has that nice curve. grab another small piece of tape. Same thing, we'll lift it up. We'll make sure that the flap is lined up with the edge of the paper. And last, to make sure it holds nice and tight, we'll do a long piece of tape that connects our two smaller ones. And for this, you might want to put your hand inside so that way you can push the tape down without bending or ripping the paper. And you can see already that we have that nice little arch. The last thing we're going to be connecting is our foreground onto our cityscape. Now when I printed out your foreground, I forgot to leave the two flaps. So when you turn this over, you'll actually see two lines for folding. So I'm going to go ahead and fold on that line. And I'll push down nice so that it's nice and level. And then I'll do the other side. Fold it over. And then backwards. So we're going to take our buildings and our background, we're going to flip them over, and we're going to put them on top of our foreground. I'm going to put my hand inside, and I'm going to take that first flap, and I want to push it in nice and tight so that it's lined up with the bottom of my background. And again, it's very helpful to grab a piece of tape. So I push it inside, I push that flap down, place a tape. So now the tape is holding it for me. I'll grab a second small piece. And I'll just connect them with one more piece of tape to make sure that it holds nice and tight. Again, you want to make sure that there's no tape hanging over the edges. Now we'll do the right hand side. We'll grab a small piece of tape. We'll lift our flap up and we want to push it in to the groove. Hold it and place a piece of tape. Piece of tape on the bottom. A piece of tape on the top. And you'll notice that I put my hand inside so that way I'm not pushing and creasing the paper. And one more piece of tape to hold it nice and snug. So once you're done, it kind of stands up a little bit. Now our foreground, middle ground, and background are done. We'll go ahead and we'll stand it up. So once you're done, it should stand up. And you can see that our foreground wraps around our buildings and our building wraps around our background. And now we have a 3D cityscape sculpture in the style of James Rizzi. Great job, third grade. Can't wait to see them all finished so we can get them out into the hallway.